Before you read chapter 3, be sure you go to your Google slide and ask a question about abolition. Chapter 3, Abolition. At one point, slavery existed in every part of the United States, even in the North. In fact, founding father Benjamin Franklin owned a few slaves for many years, until he came to see slavery as evil. All the 13 original colonies allowed slavery. However, over time, slavery died out in the North. By 1804, it was outlawed in Vermont, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, and New Jersey. When the Northwest Territory was created in 1787, slavery was not allowed there. So all the states created from that territory were free states: Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. In addition, Iowa, Maine, California, Oregon, and Kansas were all admitted before the Civil War as free states. In 1861, when the Civil War broke out, there were 19 free states and 15 slave states. There were also 8 free territories, which were areas not yet officially made states. Why was it so different in the North? People living in the northern states didn't need large numbers of farm workers the way people in the South did. Most farms in the North were small because the land wasn't very good for growing crops. More and more people became shopkeepers, craftsmen, factory workers, and merchants. From the moment the United States was born, there were people who believed that slavery was just plain wrong. They wanted it to end. Some could accept slavery ending slowly over time, but some people wanted to end or abolish slavery right away. These people were called abolition. Abolitionists are people who want slavery to end right away, or to end, period. Which presidents owned slaves? 12 U.S. presidents owned slaves. Here are the ones who did. 8 of them owned slaves while in office: Zachary Taylor, James Madison, John Tyler, Andrew Jackson, James Polk, Thomas Jefferson, James Monroe, and George Washington. 4 others owned slaves at some point in their lives: Andrew Johnson, Ulysses S. Grant, Martin Van Buren, William Henry Harrison. Does Van Buren sound familiar? Maybe that city that's pretty close to us called Van Buren? I bet it's named after a president. William Lloyd Garrison was a leader in the American abolitionist movement. Garrison was a poor boy from Massachusetts. He first worked as a printer and then went on to become a writer and editor. In 1831, he published the first issue of a newspaper called The Liberator. In its pages, he called for an immediate end to slavery. Garrison was known and admired for his firm beliefs and his fiery way of expressing them. With Arthur Tappan and others, Garrison founded the American Anti-Slavery Society. The society was started in 1833. By 1838, it had 1,350 local chapters and 250,000 members. Some were former slaves, such as Frederick Douglass and William Wells Brown. They gave speeches to bring other people to the cause. The headquarters of the society was in New York City, and from 1840 to 1870, it published a weekly newspaper. It was called the National Anti-Slavery Standard. Remember, that prefix anti means no or not or opposite of. Many abolitionists in the United States were Quakers. Started in England in 1648, the Quakers were a Christian group who believed that people should tremble at the word of the Lord. That's where the name Quakers come from. Quakers wore plain clothes and led simple lives. They did not own many things. There are still Quakers today. They worship in Quaker meeting houses without ministers. Instead, each member of the group is allowed to speak. Equality is an important part of the Quaker religion. For that reason, Quakers like John Woolman from New Jersey and Thomas Garrett from Pennsylvania were early outspoken critics of slavery. Slavery did not end for good until 1865, at the end of the Civil War. Up until then, many abolitionists took part in the Underground Railroad. Some became conductors who helped runaway slaves escape. Their homes, stores, stables, and barns were used as safe locations on the Underground Railroad, places where slaves could hide. John Fairfield, who was from a slaveholding family, became a famous conductor. Unlike the peace-loving Quakers, Fairfield carried a gun. He helped hundreds of slaves escape, often by pretending to be a slave owner himself. Even though they put themselves at risk, the conductors on the Underground Railroad did so to help people who were not free.